Hey guys, Pentalus here. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm currently ranked 2 on the North American ladder playing jungle with 1966 LP. And recently, I've been thinking about most of the league advice I've gotten from other content creators, YouTube guys, stuff like that. And I've come to realize that a lot of the league advice given online is actually pretty bad and basically being detrimental for you as a player. So in this video, I'll be talking about some of the most commonly given pieces of league advice that I think are pretty bad for you and why you shouldn't listen to them, and basically why they're bad if you implement them as a player. The first piece of advice I've heard many people give is to tell league players to basically always make the guaranteed play, right? You should be looking for plays that have like an 80, 90, 100% chance to succeed so that you can be an overall consistent player. However, this advice is pretty bad in a lot of certain situations where even if the play is like 50% likely to succeed, what you gain from the play succeeding being much more than what you lose from the play losing means that you should take the play even if it's basically a flip. One common scenario where this happens is that if both top laners are low HP and the red side top laner has 3 waves pushing in blue side top laner under tower, and the red side top laner thinks, hey, I have a 50% chance of killing him if I dive, and I have a 50% chance of basically dying if I dive him. So they won't take the dive because they think it's a guaranteed play. It's not a guaranteed play, so they'll just like base and recall. However, in reality, you should almost always be taking the dive as a top laner. Because if you fail to dive, you're just basically only losing 300 gold, right? Compared to just taking base. But if you succeed the dive, you're denying the enemy top laner basically 3 waves of minions, the XP from the minions, a lot of the XP at least, and you get the 300 gold yourself. The reward you get from the play succeeding is much more than the things you lose from the play like going wrong. So if in situations where you get a lot more than the enemy from the play succeeding, you should go ahead and take the dive, even though if you think it's like a really poor chance to succeed. This brings me into my next topic of like, it's basically mid laners taking this concept to another level and basically freezing the wave in situations where they're ahead, right? For top laners, I think it's fine. If you freeze the wave, the enemy top laner is basically homeless, like he can't do much. But if you're, for example, if you're a red side mid laner and you can basically freeze the wave under your tower, or like here, a pretty safe freeze, and you choose to do it, it's almost always really bad for the game state, even though it's a guaranteed play, right? If you're freezing, the enemy can't walk up, the enemy loses CS, you're guaranteed to get something. However, in reality, almost in every situation for mid laners, it's just better to push a wave and move on the map instead of just letting it freeze. Because the problem is, if you let this wave freeze, then mid lane basically can do whatever he wants. And sometimes this is like fine, enemy mid laner can't do much. But a lot of the times what would happen is like, for example, if the red side jungler was clearing his top camps, the mid and then the jungle moved toward these top camps and basically screw over the jungler, right? If the mid jungle collapses on a jungler dies, then they kill the jungler, they get like 1 or 2 camps, and what the enemy mid laner has done is basically he has traded 1.5 waves to basically screw over the enemy jungler, and he's actually in a better lane spot. However, in the same situation, if you just break the freeze and just push mid and then just move around the map, you can get infinite turns to basically just do whatever you want. You can do the same play with your end jungler to the enemy jungler and come back to the wave basically in time to shove another one. You can do the same thing bot side. You can even do some bot ganks if there's 4 people mid and then the enemy mid laner is basically stuck under tower. For example, if the enemy bot laner is way over pushed and there's a fight breaking out, if you're here, if you push a wave and move here while the enemy mid laner is stuck under tower, you can most of the time make it to this fight in time and like trade ahead, even though you're only losing a wave mid. So basically, what I'm trying to say here is that mid laners, please don't freeze. And there's a lot of times in League of Legends where you're not supposed to take the guaranteed play. You're supposed to take the plays that feels risky to you, because what you gain from those plays succeeding is much more than what you lose from those plays failing. Another piece of advice I've heard given out a lot that I do not think is correct is that you should always base for your basically power spikes. What I mean by this is that if you have like 1,000 gold in your pocket and you're an ADC and you can buy Lord Dominic's Regard as your fourth item, most people will tell you that you should just ignore everything else on the map, take a base, no matter what's happening, right? But here's the problem with that. One common scenario that happens a lot in solo queue, that happens in basically every elo, is that let's say bot support are winning, Dragon is like 40 seconds away from spawning, both mid laners split bot lane, and top laner is like somewhere top side, and both junglers are basically trying to secure the dragon. And let's say this dragon has 40 seconds away from spawning, right? If your bot lane is stronger, right, and they get mid push in, they can walk with you to basically control vision and push the enemy jungler out, right? So the support puts wards like here, here, here. You control this area. You can basically the jungler can help push mid back. And what this basically means is that you have control of the pit for the dragon fight. So the enemy team is basically forced to walk into you, right? The problem in this scenario is that when the ADC has like 1k gold for Lord Dominic's Regard, instead of just doing this, instead of just like making the play of getting vision, going back mid lane to push one more wave, and then doing the dragon with the enemy jungler, and basically securing this dragon like 90% of the time, what the ADCs will do sometimes is that they will push this wave in, and then channel a recall because they can buy LDR because they're stronger for a fight, right? However, if they do this, then the opposite happens, right? The enemy ADC and support gets to push out mid lane, and because like there's the ADC is walking back to base, and the enemy ADC and support just walks throughout this like jungle quadrant, right? They walk throughout here, they sweep your vision away, they help mid lane get the push, and then the opposite scenario happens. Your ADC is up basically LDR from what he had before. However, the enemy has full control of this dragon side, and by the time your ADC comes to hit this wave, like it's so impossible to walk in most of the time with the enemy controlling this side, because they can like cheese a bush, they can be here. If the enemy supports a Nihilist, the ADC can't face check, the jungle has hard time to face check, unless if you're a tank you basically can't face check. One common scenario is that the jungler tries to face check, the support Nihilist just hooks the jungler, they collapse on the jungler dies, and then they get dragon, right? But in reality, the ADC did get stronger. He got a Lord Dominic's Regard, he has 4 items, but you lost the fight because you lost control of the area. What I'm trying to say here is that basing for items makes you stronger, but what's more important than being stronger in League of Legends a lot of the time is being first to crucial objectives on the map. The ADC can base for LDR, but the problem is if the ADC bases for the LDR, you lose control of the objective, and you basically lose the objective because the ADC is not there and basically greedy for the LDR. So although basing for items is generally a good concept to become stronger in the game, there's a lot of scenarios in League of Legends where you being on the map is much more important than you being stronger for the fight. Because if you're not on the map, the fight won't start in the first place. And if the fight doesn't start in the first place, you already lost the objective, tower, whatever you're taking. One piece of advice that pisses me off to no end when people in my solo queue games follow is the advice to basically never buy control wards because you're giving 105 gold to an enemy team. A lot of people will say that if you buy a control ward, it costs you 75 gold, you're giving away 30 gold to enemy team when they kill it, and it delays your basically powerful item spikes. However, in solo queue, this is not the case. If you buy a control ward, you're basically giving vision to not only yourself, but the more important part is that you're giving vision to your teammates so they don't make dumb plays. A correctly placed control ward can stop your teammates from basically running it down because they're not aware where the enemy jungler or where the enemy laners are. And vision in the form of control wards are very nice for taking objectives and setting up objectives to make sure that you basically secure the objective and they don't have a ward inside the objective causing them to win the fight. One problem that can happen with control wards is that people buy too many control wards, but I think in solo queue it's much more often the case where people buy no control wards, being the main reason why some games are lost, compared to people spending too much gold on control wards and delaying their spikes and being too weak because they overspend on control wards. In conclusion, please buy at least like 2 to 3 control wards a game, preferably more if you're jungle and support. They can really help your team secure more objectives, And not only do they help you for getting vision, but they help your whole team basically stop making end plays with the vision they provide. The gold, that the amount of games that you will win because your teammates don't enter because you get a good pick, because you got good control wards, are much more than amounts of games you will lose from buying control wards because you're 100 gold back on your spike every time you buy a control ward. A piece of advice that is typically given to junglers a lot of the time is to just clear your camps whenever they're up. This piece of advice is intended to make it so that junglers can basically stay at a good level in resources compared to enemy junglers. As a lot of the time, people will just always be at the camp right after it spawns, or maybe like at most 30 seconds after it spawns, and clear it and then repeat being a predictable power. However, there's a lot of situations where this is just completely wrong as a play. One common situation that this is wrong in is a Baron spawning and you have your bot camps up. Most of the time, if you walk to a bot jungle and they have some vision in your bot jungle, and there's like 4 people bot lane, your bot lane is here, your top laner is matching, they'll just start Baron 4-3 and they can burn through Baron before you have enough time to clear your camps and go to Baron. So if an objective is up later on in the game, you want to prioritize getting vision and control over it over clearing your camps. Another common situation where it's not good to clear your camps is that, for example, let's say your top laner is about to get dove by the enemy support or by the enemy jungler because their wave is crashing. However, you were basically clearing up and then your bottom camps are respawning and you're just out of base. If you know this top dive is about to happen, you need to cover this top dive for your top laner, even if it means like not being at your camps at the respawn time. This is because by covering this dive, you're saving your top laner a lot more resources than what you would have lost if the top laner just died. Because if the top laner dies to a 3-wave crash because they get dove by the enemy top laner, the enemy jungler, and you're just busy farming your camp spot side, you have basically lost the game by not responding to this play. Maybe you can trade a play bot lane by diving to enemy ADC and support, but most of the time out of base, you want to cover plays that are very bad for your teammates to make. So TLDR, if your laner is about to get dove, or if you know your laner is about to gank, or if you know an important objective is coming up, there's a lot of situations in this game where even if you're playing a full clear jungler, you need to skip your camps to go to the play first. Finally, the one piece of advice that I feel like is holding the most League of Legends players back is the advice that people give to League of Legends players to be selfish, right? A lot of content creators will tell you that, hey, you basically can only control yourself, so you should look to get yourself ahead. You should look for plays that maximizes what you get on the map, and then you should basically try to get yourself ahead over prioritizing your teammates. While this is a fine mindset, recently I did a silver to masters climb in 4 days, and what I've realized from this climb is that League of Legends, even in lower elos, is a team-based game. It is so much more easier to win games if you get your teammates ahead, rather than trying to basically solo carry the game. For example, let's take a scenario of where the red side mid laner basically roams a lot and helps your team. The red side mid laner roams bot lane, drops a wave and a plate in order to get their bot lane 2 kills to their bot lanes ahead. Resets, comes back, does the same thing, goes top lane, drops a plate, gets top lane flash or dives top lane, gets top lane ahead. And then the enemy mid laner gets a wave, and so the enemy mid laner is 2 waves and 2 plates up. Then the red side mid laner does a realm with the jungler to help invade and kill the jungler. And at the same time, he loses another wave and 2 extra plates. So in this scenario, the red side mid laner probably didn't pick up all the kills, so he's like 3 waves and 4 plates behind. But the problem is, for the blue side mid laner, is the blue side mid laner is ahead and he might be able to solo carry, but it is so impossible to solo carry when your laners are all behind. It is way harder to solo carry when your lanes are behind. So in my opinion, the best solo queue players and how you should play solo queue is basically working as a team, right? I know, it's crazy. League of Legends, a team-based game, working with your team is unheard of. But even in solo queue, especially considering the way I play is very basically oriented around helping your team, being selfish is one of the worst traits a player can have in order to climb solo queue. Yes, it is possible to be a selfish player and climb solo queue, but it is so much easier from experience and from talking to other challenger junglers to help your team out and get them ahead and get it so that your team is in a good spot rather than trying to solo carry every game, right? There will be some metas when Kindred's OP that you can solo carry a lot of games on Kindred. When Bel'Veth is OP, you can cheese the enemy jungler over and over again to basically solo kill games on junglers. Or when like a specific mid, top, or ADC is OP, maybe you get far ahead enough to basically win the whole game. But more and more recently, League of Legends has been shifting over towards a team-oriented game where you need to impact yourself as well as the team as well. So in conclusion, if you want to take anything out of this, please don't be selfish and please think about team basically gold on your teammates and EXP on your teammates to be worth similar amounts that to like gold on you and gold towards yourself. But anyway, thanks for watching. Join my Discord if you want to talk to me about some subjects. I'm trying to be active there. I can't say I'm doing my best, but I'm trying to be active there. And yeah, follow me on Twitch. I might have some special content coming soon, but not guaranteed. But we'll see. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.